Okay, some good news. And the last couple of weeks have been a bit hectic, but Morecambe Football Club have been saved. The Panjab Warriors have completed their takeover. A couple of weeks ago, we actually thought the club had gone bust, dead, very, very unlikely to survive. There was about a 6 hour period where there was a lot of uncertainty and no one knew what was going. A lot of people did actually think the club had gone under. It then transpired that they were just suspended from the National League until the 21st of August. They were also barred from entering the National League's version of the League Cup, which contains teams from the National League and then the National League North and South. And their first three matches of the season were postponed, looking likely to be rearranged should the club survive. There was a meeting earlier this week where Jason Whittingham, the majority stakeholder in the club, had a meeting with the Panjab Warriors, and during that meeting, things have been thrashed out, and the Panjab Warriors have now officially taken full control. Yes, Jason Whittingham is out. The Panjab Warriors are in as the owners, which they wanted to do before the season started. It's up to Jason Whittingham. He was being very obstructive. He was not submitting paperwork in a timely fashion. And there was concern that he was deliberately trying to run the club down to sell off assets like the training ground, the youth system, and the youth facilities and the stadium to develop them. That was basically a fear that a lot of people had. And it was sort of like a carbon copy of what happened to Bury in 2019. What we ended up with is sort of a carbon copy of what happened to Bolton in 2019. That was a very hectic summer back in the July and August in 2019, 6 years ago, where two clubs in a similar situation at the same time, one died, one survived. And the Football League got heavily criticised for the way that they handled that 6 week period 6 years ago. And we've seen other incidents since then, like Reading, and what's going on with Sheffield Wednesday now, and a few other clubs that have also slipped out of the Football League into the non-league, like Southend and Scunthorpe United, and what happened with Macclesfield. There's a lot of repeating ourselves over the last 6 years, and other clubs have gone into administration and have had also financial difficulties. And there's some clubs up in Scotland. I think one of the Dundee clubs, I can't remember if it's Dundee United or Dundee, are facing issues with the tax man. So this is not just isolated to England. We've seen it in Italy with Brescia. We've seen it with Lyon and Bordeaux in France. There are clubs struggling across Europe. Some down to bad ownership, some down to being owed money by other clubs in the transfer market, and some clubs have just run out of funds and are struggling for a variety of reasons. But this situation should not have come to pass. This situation has been building and building for 3 years since Jason Whittingham put the club up for sale in 2022. But then questions need to be asked of Jason Whittingham and what happened at the Worcester Warriors in rugby union. Because guess what? They went bust. And there was massive mismanagement there, financial. There's definitely a lot of questions that the EFL need to answer because the National League inherited this problem. Now, at the same time, as I say, it appears that we've learnt nothing since 2019. This is another near miss in regards to clubs going under. We had it last year with Reading. Sheffield Wednesday are in dire straits right now. Southend and Scunthorpe were on the brink as well in recent years. And this is a reoccurring theme. A very reoccurring theme. A lot of clubs are operating on very fine margins in all the leagues. There are clubs in the Premier League that are losing money and that are posting losses, regardless if it's just bookkeeping losses. The fact that clubs that are meant to be highly profitable, make a lot of money, are actually saying we're losing money, or we've not made a profit this year, or our profits are down this year, is a bit worrying. Now, there is some creative bookkeeping at play. We've also got questions over multi-club ownership and should that be allowed because of what's happened with Crystal Palace. And we've still not fully got this independent football regulator. Now, UEFA are threatening to block clubs from competition if it goes ahead, etc., etc. But I do think that the governance and the administration side of the sport is a mess. And we've got very, very lucky that Morecambe, as a club, have survived. And you look at the footballing community and how other clubs in the north of England especially have reached out and supported the Morecambe fans and the Morecambe community by giving them free entry, basically. I think Bury have done it. There's a few other, Fleetwood have done it. There's a few other clubs in the north of England, local rivals to Morecambe, who have been very, very generous in their support of the club and how they've reached out to the fan groups and the community and have allowed free entry or discounted entry to their games, and that's quite heartwarming in a sense. At the same time, this situation should not have come to pass. Yes, I think everyone in the footballing community is glad that another club has been saved, but I fear that bigger clubs could end up in a situation similar, if not worse. And I think Sheffield Wednesday is the current ongoing story at the moment. That's starting to gain a lot of headlines and a lot of discussion. And imagine a club the size of Sheffield Wednesday. Imagine if they go bust. I mean, that would be ridiculous. Sheffield Wednesday aren't the club that they were in regards to league position and competing for trophies like they used to. But can you imagine if a club like the size of Sheffield Wednesday, with their fan base and their history in the game and their successes in the game and the importance they have actually in the Premier League's history, the development of the sport, Football League, and FA Cup and League Cup and the old Division 1 and their history in the game and their importance, and imagine if they go bust. Then I would think the Football League and the Premier League have a lot of questions to answer, because we've got, as I say, questions about multi-club ownership. We've got questions about the Man City, 115 charges. It's gone very quiet there. Fans haven't forgotten. It seems the Premier League has, and the FA have sort of gone a bit quiet on that. We've had no statements on that. We don't know how far along in that investigation we are, and if any solution's going to come to that. We've seen points deductions for clubs for breaching financial fair play rules. But in theory, I'm going to say this: if the FA, the Premier League, and the Football League was to properly enforce their spending rules, 70% of the clubs would be docked points and fined and given transfer embargoes and all this sort of stuff because of the weak governance. But there we are. Morecambe have been saved. Bit of a ramble, but it's good news. Another dodgy owner's gone. I do believe the Panjab Warriors have good intentions. They've been the only ones in this entire process who've been open, transparent, and communicating not only with the fans but with the media, releasing statements, showing intent, positive intent. But yeah, questions need to be asked of the Football League and their transparency and the directors' test yet again. So I fear we're going to have a repeating cycle with Sheffield Wednesday and other clubs with the way things are looking up and down the footballing pyramid, which is quite worrying. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will have some more content for you all very, very soon.